y'all, it's Ashley, aka YoYo Superstar, and yes, it's been a very long time since I've been on YouTube, but I'm gonna do things a little different today, a little bit of an informal video for the holidays. So typically around the holidays, I see a spike on my channel with beginner videos and yo-yo reviews and things like that, so I figure now is a good time to do a video about how to buy a yo-yo for like a gift for the holidays, so you know what you're looking for, you know what you're buying, and you know how to select the yo-yo for the certain skill level or type of player that you're buying for. I'm gonna do a few tips on how I give yo-yos to other people, or how folks have picked out yo-yos for me, or how I've suggested ones that people could buy that are like easy. So if you're buying a yo-yo for someone for the holiday season, you know what to look for. So first things first, you gotta know how old this person is gonna be. And I don't mean like exact age, but if we're talking like a kid to like a teenager to an adult, you actually can adjust the type of yo-yo you buy. So kids, we're typically looking for something that's like rubber, plastic. If you want a metal yo-yo, you want to make sure that they're kind of used to how that feels yet, or they're not gonna go around the house crazy and break a bunch of things. You're probably gonna want a 1A yo-yo or a responsive yo-yo, and I'll go into that in a minute, but you want to make sure that material is gonna be safe. So we get into like adolescence, teenager, I'm not like a doctor or anything, but we gotta make sure that we're not just like roughhousing around the house with something. And you know, if you're taking yo-yos to school, or you're, you know, taking them outside, that you're not just gonna bash them up on the concrete or the blacktop or wherever you are. So again, like plastic or rubber is good, but like if you want to upgrade to the metal yo-yos at this point, I would say kind of go for the budget mono metal yo-yo. I'm not looking at like a $120 bimetal yo-yo for a teenager unless they're an experienced player. For adults, do whatever you want. The really high-end fancy yo-yos are like titanium and they're like $300, so I wouldn't recommend that unless that's like the love of your life, or like the last gift you're ever gonna give them, or you know, whatever that's gonna be. But you know, adults are hopefully gonna be safe with what they play with. Okay, so types of yo-yos that you're looking for. So when you're on like a yo-yo site, you're probably going to see responsive versus unresponsive yo-yos, and then 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A. So responsive, as I've mentioned on this channel a couple of times, responsive yo-yos, you're gonna throw them down, they're gonna pop back up to your hand. You don't need to perform a fancy move called a bind to get them back up to your hand. That's a learned skill. It's pretty easy once you get into it, but if you're doing, you know, yo-yos for the first time, if you're just picking one up for the first time, you're probably not going to want to bind unless you're looking at like Brandon Vu or Gentry Stein videos, or you know, whoever it might be in there, like I want to be that person. You're probably not looking for a 1A yo-yo for your first one, or you're looking for one that you can adjust or you can upgrade to an unresponsive yo-yo over time. So I know that yoyotricks.com has some. I had a Viper yo-yo. I'm trying to remember the brand, I'll drop it in the description, but you twisted it and it became less responsive. So that was like my first unresponsive yo-yo. So just keep that in mind. 1A through 5A, you're not really going to need to specify unless that person asks for that type of yo-yo. So like a 4A is an off-string yo-yo, a 5A is one that you can put a counterweight on. So if someone asks for that, then you need to specify a little bit. But really, you're looking for 1A, 2A, or 3A, which is just two yo-yos that are 1A style. So what that is, 1A is again the more popular modern. Pretty much any yo-yo that you pick up is going to be 1A. 2A is when folks are interested in those looping tricks. So you'll see them kind of throw the yo-yos like this. Great technique. And typically those are more like, they're less flared out like this guy, and they're just small, compact yo-yos. So if someone asks for 2A yo-yos, you're gonna want two of them. They'll probably say looping yo-yos or loop whatever, or I don't know, something about looping. You will know. Most players are going to want a 1A yo-yo that looks something kind of like this. So just keep that in mind. So here are like some examples of like a 2A type of yo-yo. So it's kind of rounded, it's compact. This part's like not flared out. So these are kind of what the 2As look like. All right, the other thing you're gonna wanna know is if your person wants a mono metal yo-yo a bimetal, or even a trimetal yo-yo. So a little bit about those differences. So this is my signature yo-yo. It's shared with some other players on Rain Save Skills, my yo-yo team. But so this one is just one single metal all the way around. The material is exactly the same. The paint looks different all the way, but it's like, this is the same material. So this is a monometal yo-yo. Bimetal yo-yo you can identify because it has an extra ring of metal in it. So this part right here is different than like the painted pink and black metal. So this is the Deluge from Rain City Skills. This ring makes it a bimetal yo-yo. Another example of this is the Haymaker X from Duncan. Big chunky rim on there. That's a different style of metal. They will typically be shown differently. Like this is pink, this is silver, right? So typically you'll be able to see it. And if you get really fancy, you can have a tri-metal. So this is the Turducken from Rain City Skills. So we've got a ring and another ring, and then the body of the yo-yo is different. Typically, bimetals, tri-metals are more expensive than the monometal yo-yos. You are probably going to see more of our competition players, like the fancy yo-yo stars that you see on TV. They're probably going to be playing with a bimetal yo-yo, but not necessarily. So they've definitely sprung up in popularity. Sometimes they're more powerful, sometimes they're faster, sometimes they're more stable. It has a different feel to it. So if you've got someone who's starting out, don't buy them a bimetal. Like, it's just extra cost on it that you might not need. Over time, they can progress into that, so they're not like messing up a brand new, really nice yo-yo. And there's also really nice monometals. Yonami code, Rain City Skills. If we're looking at beginner players or intermediate players, just stick with the monometal. I actually prefer them. I think they're really nice. Again, they just play differently. Your player will know more about that than you. They'll know their preference. So if they ask for a bimetal, now you know what to look for. If they don't specify, I would go with a monometal, unless they're a really advanced player who's like, oh, give me whatever. Then maybe check out the bimetal if you want to give them something nice, or a tri-metal if you're really fancy. And with that, it's a really good time to talk about budget. So again, something like the Turducken or Haymaker X, you know, something like that. The Deluge, those are all gonna be fairly expensive yo-yos over like the $100 range. So if you're just looking to get like a nice friendly gift, you're gonna wanna go with a monometal or a plastic yo-yo. This is a light up plastic. Those are probably gonna be even cheaper. So know your budget going in. So probably like a $5 to $20, very beginner level. Once we start getting into like 25, 35, 45, we're getting to like the intermediate. 45 to maybe 75, we're still looking close to budget. Yeah. And then anything over that, I would say, is more of like an advanced yo-yo, or at least it has advanced materials, or it's a Kickstarter or whatever it might be. So just know your budget going in for that person. Don't tell them you're gonna get them a Turducken Arises yo-yo if you're not willing to spend over $100. Like, doesn't make sense. Another thing to note, if you're able to ask the person some questions, is how long they've been playing, and if they have a lot of yo-yos. If they do, if they're like a collector like I am, show them some minis. You know, that might be a cool option to check out some of the micro yo-yos. That's something that folks don't usually have a ton of in their collection, unless you're on Rain City Skills and you have all of them. Or then you can do like the oversized route. So this is the SETI from Rain City Skills. I am a sponsored player. That's not like a sponsored video, but just give me an example. So like the SETI just came out. It's pretty big versus like our, I think this is the 2 bits. I'm starting to lose track now, but like quite a different size. Versus like our standard yo-yo that can like fit in the SETI. So just know about the size a little bit. Add one more note about the size. The gap of the yo-yo is pretty important for beginner players, or even really advanced players too. If it's a nice wide gap, it's going to be easier for beginner players. So honestly, you can just visualize this at the store. Usually nicer yo-yos are in a case. So this one has a really skinny gap, and even though it's a beginner yo-yo, if you saw that on like a more advanced like micro yo-yo or an organic yo-yo, which has the smaller gap as well, that might be harder for a newer player. So something nice and wide like this says like, yeah, they're gonna be able to try out some more advanced tricks. Awesome, great, cool. So the skater yo-yo from Rain City Skills, again, I'm a sponsored player, so I just have all of these, but it has a little bit of a skinnier gap. If this is your first yo-yo, you might like it because it's plastic, but you know, it's not got a super wide gap. So if you're doing like the tricks where you're jumping and bouncing the yo-yo and whatever, those are gonna be harder. So if I were to get like a beginner yo-yo for someone who has never played before, I would get like a responsive 1A or 2A yo-yo. Means I throw it down, it comes back up. I don't need to learn a bind. It's probably plastic or rubber to be safe because these things can come back fast. And it's probably under $30. If I'm getting a midline yo-yo for someone, I'm probably looking at something like my Signature. So probably something metal or even plastic again. The Skater's a good midline yo-yo. So nice wide gap, mono metal. You know, this one has some rim weight on it. That's more for player knowledge, but it's steadier. And it's gonna be within like the $40 to $65, $75 range. So that's kind of what I would do as like a standard yo-yo for someone who's been playing. And then again, we got like these bad boys, the bimetal, tri-metal, very stable, very fast, very floaty, very fun, great for competition. Really the competition style yo-yos, or even the really specialized micro yo-yos, or those larger yo-yos even. Those are probably what I'm gonna get an advanced player. Can I buy a yo-yo from like Target or Walmart? Yes, it's probably 100% gonna be a Duncan Butterfly. It's a plastic responsive yo-yo. They're great. I started on one. That's gonna be for a beginner, for sure. Can I get my kid a light up or wooden yo-yo? Absolutely. Light up yo-yos are always fun. You can even get more advanced light up yo-yos, which is cool. Wooden yo-yos are usually fixed axle yo-yos. It means they don't spin as long. They're not as new and modern. So if you have a kid who's into kind of figuring things out on their own, then maybe, or if it's a souvenir. But otherwise I would just stick with plastic, rubber, or metal. Is a more expensive yo-yo always better than a less expensive yo-yo? No. It's just not. No, that's not true. But you will probably see a huge difference between a $30 yo-yo and a $130 yo-yo. That yo-yo would be better. But if it's like 75 to 65, or like, I don't know, 45 to even sometimes 80, like you don't always see a clear difference in performance. And it depends on the type of yo-yo too. They can be different styles. Like I mentioned 5A yo-yos, they come with counterweights. They can be all metal, they can be plastic, whatever. So it might be the same yo-yo, like the Duncan Freehand can be plastic or metal, but there's a price difference. So it just depends on what you like. Does brand matter? Yes. It just does. My yo-yo team is quirky and silly. You get little Lego pieces, candy, extra strings, stickers, pogs with our yo-yos. That's just our brand. It's fun, it's silly. That's Rain City Skills. Our Yo-Yo Factory yo-yos are used by kind of our stars in the yo-yo game. So kind of those most popular figures in the world yo-yo champions, like Gentry Stein. So those are going to be kind of the yo-yos that maybe smaller kids who have seen folks online who are like the pros, they're gonna gear towards those. Or if you have someone advancing pretty quickly, they're probably gonna go to Yo-Yo Factory. Duncan, I have a ton of Duncan. That's what my dad used. So it's like the classic yo-yo. They've modernized a lot, but if you have a kid who values that like I did, you know, that might be a cool brand for you. I'm great friends with Emmanuel from Guy with a Yo-Yo. Those are just sexy, stable, powerful yo-yos. So yes, you want to check out the different brands and see, you know, what fits the person you're buying, or get their suggestions on their favorite brand and then choose from there. But there are differences. I wouldn't say one brand is better than any. It's just like if you buy Nike versus Crocs, you know, some people like Crocs, some people like Nike. I have feelings about that, but you know, you may not. So it's just, you know, whatever your person likes. And last thing, just know if you get an advanced yo-yo, you might not get like directions sometimes you don't even get like a fancy box. They just come in like cardboard boxes. If you buy them from the store, they're probably out of the box, you know, being displayed in a case. So if you have someone who's really in the learning phase that they can't just pick up a yo-yo and do a trick, you're gonna want to buy something that's kind of packaged up with like a kit or some instructions or a QR code they can scan or some website attached to that where they can learn. Just because you have to get more stuff like strings, like bearings, like whatever maintenance tools that they might need in the future. Do I have recommendations? Of course I do. I mean, I love the yo-yo I made with my team, the Onami code. It's my shared signature for a reason. I think it's an absolutely fabulous yo-yo. Rain City is a great place to get started if you're kind of at that intermediate beginner level, moving to advanced. Some of my favorite yo-yos, like the ND yo-yo, I think that was Yo-Yo Factory too. I don't see as much anymore, so it's harder to recommend. I do have a video about first yo-yos to pick out, or you know, I've done some yo-yo reviews as well. If you have questions about a particular yo-yo and I've played with it, you know, go ahead and drop it in the comments and I can answer some questions about where I rank it. But again, I'm a yo-yo collector, so I find something special in all of the yo-yos that I play with. Even if they suck, I keep them around. So yeah, I have recommendations, but if you're between a few, just drop a comment and I can let you know kind of what I would prefer. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to get back on YouTube, give you some suggestions for the holidays before things happen. If you have suggestions on learning how to yo-yo or learning tricks or things like that that I can help you guys with, please drop it in the comments so I can continue making content in 2025. Because I know that I took kind of a year off here. If you want any of the Rain City yo-yos that I showed today, go to raincityskills.com. If you have questions about other ones in the video or other ones I have in my collection, drop it in the comments, or just any yo-yo. Like, I would love to try it with you. And my name's Ashley, aka YoYo Superstar, back hopefully for good. Have a happy holidays and happy gift giving.